Welcome to the You Person podcast, a deep dive into how a new way of knowing is developing holistic, innovative leaders at all levels of the organization and changing the way business does business. I'm your host, James Tuznia, and a big shout out to Lindsay Sterling for our highly evocative theme music, Between Twilight.
It is critical that business alter their operating system. The very nature of holding people in job descriptions, of having a hierarchical system that says you can't step out. If you step out, you're going to really severely have your hand slapped, would have a human being say, well, I guess that's it. I can't go beyond this. I can't tap into what my birthright is. And I don't even have the awareness that that's my birthright because this is just how business is. And so I have to just put up with it, not knowing that continuing to stay in it actually causes me to regress because I'm not doing deep practice. I'm not at work evolving myself that would get me to a leader 6.0 because it is built into our neurology and our physiology that it is a critical thing right now.
It's the structure of 4.0 business that orients around a concrete, literal, here's how we do business here. Yep. Here's how we've always done business. Here's how we're doing business. And one might think that that's not happening because the world is changing so rapidly. It might not be intuitively obvious to us that still within the company, we have that here's how we do business thing, or here is best practices. And not, as Shelley was pointing out earlier, not really being aware that we're doing that.
Yeah.
Because it's been so standardized in our education that that's how we do things. Like we have textbooks that have concretized information in a certain way. And if you're going to pass the test, you do it in a certain way. And There's a correct answer. And the correct answer is already laid out in the textbook and in the material. And then we get to a company that has a tradition, especially if it's not a new company. And here's how we do business. And even if it's a new company, you have people in it who here's how we do business.
Right.
And so then without necessarily being aware of it, you do have a kind of tamping down and in some ways a kind of punitive relationship to somebody who might have a moment of epiphany and go, wait, let's do it like this. And then they'll be like, interesting. And here's how we do business here.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think it's actually critical that we install this in business because it is the primary place people live their lives. And it is the potential for a life university where people actually could step out of here's how we do business, or here's how you got to live your life, or here's all it means you are. You can only do this and only this because you can't get to university or you can't go to get a degree. There's some kind of degradation that has happened there. If you look historically at what business has inherited as a way of doing business along with traditional thinking, the first businesses in the United States were slave traders. So we built a system with master, overseer, supervisor with people who weren't paid at all. Well, paid by you can live here and you can barely get food, but you're going to have to work 24/7 and then we won't pay you. There's perfume of that still in business. And so we're talking about being able to take business to a whole new place. And it can be a part of the greening of human beings that can help the greening of the planet. Anyway, so that's part of why it's so important.
One of the things that's occurring with COVID and the web, when the web happened, there was more information available to everyone, right? It opened the world up in communication. When COVID hit and our business practices stopped, and people started to see the opportunity in remotely working and or using the internet to put themselves out there in different ways. The wave coming that's changing the world because now the door is open. Anyone can step into that world in the world market and offer something. And that alone blew the doors open and people started rushing through. So we went to, as Woon said, in podcasting, it took 15 years to get 1 million podcasts. Now, in the last year, as it moved another 1 million in 1 year versus 15 years. And that's what happened through COVID, because the doors blew open in terms of what's possible in doing business in the world, which is why an entrepreneur explosion. But business and the structures of corporations, large corporations, are not going to move that fast, but the wave is coming and it's not going to stop. So they're going to be impacted. It's going to change. They're going to have to change or push us all back. But I don't think the world is going to let that happen this time. Hopefully.
No, there's no putting that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the You Person podcast. If you are new to the podcast, please head over to our website, theyoupersonproject.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast, learn more about the project, or connect with our team. You can also reach us at hello@theyoupersonproject.com. If you think of someone who will benefit from listening to this podcast, please do share it with them. Thank you again, and see you on the next episode of the You Person podcast.